Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is Choma, your STEAM Diva, coming to you live. I'm here today to share my story in the hopes of fulfilling STEAM Diva's mission to encourage you all to pursue careers in the exciting world of STEM. I will also introduce you to some high level topics in robotics because that's something I'm passionate about. I hope at the end of this presentation, you all will be excited about STEM and robotics. As I walk you through my journey in STEM, I will be giving the advice or the takeaways to my younger self. This is something that, I'm trying to connect with where you are in your life. So, this, if I had an opportunity to advise my younger self, this is what I would tell them as I journey through STEM. Very important here. I have a tendency to use jargons. So please, 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 please stop me and ask me to define words if you don't understand them. The most important thing here is that you leave this video, you leave this conversation with a clear understanding. Okay? All right, let's go. Hi, my name is Choma Asor. I started a group called STEAMDivas. We're a nonprofit organization in Florida. Our main goal is to help young girls get excited about STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We do this by giving them a hands on experience and showing them that they can be leaders in these fields. We also add arts to our STEM, which is why we call it STEAM instead of STEM, because we believe that creativity is really important in science and technology. Arts is so important because we are designing our products not just for ourselves, but for people. So when I talk about art, I'm not talking about just painting. I'm also talking about humanities. I'm talking about any form of creativity. Now, we do this because we want more girls and women to be involved in these areas where they've been less represented in the past. At the same time, we want people to be chasing arts if they want to, but have STEM input into it because we don't believe that the separation is actually needed. So our organization is really focused on not just encouraging more girls and women to get into STEM, but also making sure they have a very supportive and positive environment where they can succeed and do well. I am also a full stack roboticist. A full stack roboticist is someone who has expertise in both the hardware and software aspects of robotics. So I have an experience in electrical engineering, software engineering, test automation engineering, robotics engineering. I have worked in different industries from manufacturing to space to gaming. So as you can tell, this is my life story in this short slide. A typical day in my life is not the same. I don't have a say day to day that's pretty much the same. And it's because I'm a founder and a president of a nonprofit. I'm wearing a lot of hats and always adaptable to my challenges that I meet each day, which differs. But I can tell you, an example of a typical day. So a typical day for me, like right now, is we are gearing up for our hackathon 2024. And one of the things that we're doing, one of our stations, because we have several stations, about six of them, but one of our stations is going to be hairstyles and robotics, pretty much. So what I'm doing right now is I'm working on how to combine automation with hairstyles in a way that anybody who has no experience can pick it up and learn a thing or two while still loving how to make and style hair. The other things I do a lot, is networking. I do a lot of networking. Recently, I was networking with Engineer Arts on how we can collaborate with them for STEAM Divas, so students can talk to a maker. I'm sure a lot of you know who a maker is. Is a humanoid robot. She's online. Just do a Google search. You're gonna find a maker there. A maker talks regularly, but she's a robot. And so I'm thinking about how, our students close to a maker and have conversations with a maker. Um, Also, networking with other ladies that's part of automated um, engineering systems and working with STEM ladies in Africa. So I'm networking as something as a founder of a nonprofit. We have to do a lot of. Um, and not everything I do is technical. Sometimes I have to do some non-technical stuff. For example, I had to talk to the bank to get some financial responsibilities handled. So, knowing all this, my advice to my younger self would be each day brings its own set of challenges and rewards. So, learning how to adapt, learning how to flow is really, really important. So have a plan as a framework, but change with the flow when needed. So let's start at the beginning. As a young girl, I was curious about electronics. My mom had a small radio and TV that I was always messing with, and I have no experience, right? So in the process, I'm doing a lot of damage. But each time I damage the TV or radio, my mom calls a repairman. They come to the house and they fix it. And when they're doing the fixing, right, I'm hanging around them because I'm trying to learn and see what they're doing because it's curiosity that also makes me to, damage those parts. So I hang around those people so much and I learn a lot from just watching them do that next time when the you know, when the TV or the radio goes bad, I'm able to fix it myself. So that's how I got a lot of my hands-on experience in STEM at a young age. I could say accidentally. I would say that another way that I was influenced it was my love of African stories. So it was my earliest introduction into sci-fi, and those tales by moonlight are magical. And the way the magic happens in our time is through technology. Like you could right now with technology, you can talk to someone that's not in front of you, with no wires attached, and that imagine someone who's never seen a cell phone, doesn't know how anything about cell phones, sees what's happening to them, it's going to be magic. So basically, everything is magic until you get knowledge, and then it becomes technology. So I'll listen to those stories about, uh, 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 you know, disappearing, showing up, doing all kinds of things. It was magical to me, and I wanted to see how I can recreate that. And technology was one way I thought, okay, I could do that. So what I would say here is if I could talk to my younger self, I'll say, follow your curiosity. It will lead you to amazing places. Choosing a career, though, wasn't straightforward. I mean, I knew I wanted to be an engineer, and I was fortunate that my mom supported that idea from the start. At that time, it was not common for women to want to be engineers. The question is like, what type of engineer though did I want to be, right? And so I wanted to be a civil engineer one time. I wanted to be a mechanical engineer one time, but and I was like, maybe I should do something related to electronics. At that point in time, I didn't really have a lot of resources telling me a lot about engineering. All I knew is that I wanted to be an engineer. And at the end of the day, I decided to go into electrical engineering because it's something that excites and challenges me. So my advice to my younger self, it would be here, choose a path that only excites you, but also challenges you to grow. So don't go for something that only excites you because it's easy, but also find something that excites and challenges you. The funny thing is, my career path wasn't straightforward, right? Like I was having a hard time even thinking what kind of engineering I was doing. Now I picked electrical engineering. You think that would be straightforward for me? No. So I started studying electrical engineering in Nigeria, and then I moved to the US to continue studying electrical engineering. Although I was interested in robotics, as young as I was, I had all those things, but there was no clear path for a robotics degree. So I stayed with electrical engineering. While I was there, my school added the computer engineering to our department, and that introduced me to programming. My passion for robotics increased, right? The advice at that time was, oh, you had to pick either hardware or software. There's a new department. They wanted us to pick one side. Um, but I was just stubborn. I wanted to do both. And I'm so glad I was stubborn and tried to do both. So when I got out of school, I started building automated test systems, which were as close to robotics as you could get for work at that time. I was able to use both my hardware and software skills to automate a lot of things, products that we were manufacturing, and create environments for it to look like it's part of the real world. So the next thing is, um, I moved into space, building space vehicles, which I call autonomous robots. Space vehicles fly by themselves, and a lot of the systems are robots. Like, when you think about the, the systems that we have set up that direct us, uses deliberative and predictive controls that we teach in robotics, and then NPCs is our flight control systems, that you kind of create like a closed system that you use to validate if it's turning this way and you adjust, or going this way you adjust. So, um, I was walking in space. At that time, I wasn't really thinking it was a robot, but as I was learning more about robotics, I realized that space vehicles are actually autonomous robots. I actually wrote an article about it. If you check online, you can find it. And then I went into game engines, and some of you might be wondering, what's the connection with that with robotics? Well, space game engines are the what you use to build games, basically, and those platforms can be used, to create virtually anything like the games. So let's say you're trying to design a robot. I mean, when you're trying to, design somebody that can run, you don't just speak them wrong. You have to understand the mechanics of how they run. And same thing when you design a robot. So, a game engine is a cool way for us to, test our robots in virtual reality before we take them into the real world. It's a really nice way. So, at that time, I was working in all of these systems. Um, I had no idea of the correlation to robotics, right? I was just working in areas I was passionate about. So with the advancement of AI and ML and robotics, robotics became a part of the regular systems. So I was able to now deduce that everything I was doing was leading me into robotics. So my diverse experience in electrical, software, tests was giving me the ability to become a full stack robotics. So my advice to myself is, do not fit into any box, because you never know what the future holds. So my field is a mixture of a lot of areas that are interconnected. Electrical engineering gives the ability for software to exist in the world using hardware, and software engineering gives the ability to communicate with a machine and automate systems. Test engineering gives the ability to combine both software and hardware to build automated systems to validate how a product will function in the real world. And if you put it together, you get robotics. I believe that robotics is the final frontier for AI and ML, the hardware manifestation of AI. Robotics will replace a lot of redundant work, and my hope is this will allow us to use our time to be more creative and chase our passion. This is my utopia, the why behind what I do. I would love to see this utopia where people are given the freedom to be more creative, to chase their passion, and figure out why they are here on this earth. Robots replacing us in mundane tasks, mundane roles will free up our time and allow us to be more creative. So my advice to my younger self would be understand your why. Once you understand your why, you everything you do would somehow take you down that path. So in college, I majored in electrical engineering, and I think my mother's support influenced my belief that I could do this. She saw I had a passion for it, and she encouraged me to go for it. However, I was influenced in robotics by reading sci-fi stories by authors like Isaac Asimov. In my case, I would say necessity also was the mother of invention, or in this case, influence. As one who did not like the idea of doing dishes, don't tell my kids that. I always was thinking about how I can build a machine to do the chores that I do not like, which is practically all the chores, but particularly dishes. And that's when I started dreaming of all types of things I could do with a robot. So when it comes to picking a major, I was fortunate to go to school in Nigeria and then go to school in the US. In Nigeria, from senior high school, or as we call it in Nigeria, SS1, you were already getting segregated into arts or science, pushing you towards your major. However, in the US, it was different. We were encouraged to explore, which gave me the capability to reinvent my career, something I have been doing all of my working life. So if you really want to be great at life, you want to have as much diverse experience as you possibly can. Like, how many of you know that the saying jack of all trades, master of none is actually half of the saying? How many of you? I bet it's just a few of you. It is true. The complete saying is jack of all trades, master of none, though oftentimes better than master of one. So if I had to give an advice to my younger self here, I would be like, don't get stuck trying to find a major. Explore. I say this because there have been numerous majors that are no longer relevant, and with the advancement of AI and robotics, there'll be a lot of changes. You do not know what the future holds. However, I encourage you to stay learning. Don't say, oh, because I met some I don't like this, I'm not gonna learn. Learn what you can. Focus on learning. Figure out your learning style, and that way you can easily adapt. Now, my best subject in school was math. I love math because I see math as our daily life written in short form. I think everyone would be great in math if we just ignore the fluff. Think about it. 1 plus 1 is 2 can also be written as the summation notation. As complex as it looks, we're all saying the same thing. One person meets with another person, that is two people. She got one apple, I give her another apple, she got two apples. So when I was in college, I took a class in advanced math and I was struggling in that class. I mean, I was failing that class. Now, while struggling with that class, I could easily have said I wasn't called to be an electrical engineer. I'm dropping this. Oh man, I hate math and drop any kind of major that has to do with math and pick a different major. But I didn't. The reason I didn't is because I remembered all the time I was fixing stuff as a young girl and all the other math problems that I understood and passed. And that kept me going. So when I started working as an engineer and encountering difficult problems, I remember how I persevered through failing and struggling with advanced math. And despite all of that, I still ended up graduating with my electrical engineering degree. And that keeps me going. So, my advice to my younger self is this: don't shy away from tough subjects or tough things. They often teach us the most valuable lessons. I've been inspired by a lot of people because I know how to compartmentalize. I don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. I can find inspiration anywhere. And the honest truth is inspiration is everywhere. You can find it in people, books, nature, and even in failure. You can find inspiration everywhere if you look for it. I was fortunate to be raised around a lot of strong women. I like to call them Dora Milajes. And if you're into Black Panther, you know what I'm talking about. That being said, my number one role model is my mother. I call her the original Dora Milaje. She was a very strong and powerful woman who was way ahead of her time. She was unassuming, though, about how strong she was or how ahead of her time she was. I'm usually inspired by strong female role models still today. And right now, I would say that one person that is inspiring me, there's a lot of female role models that inspire me, but I really like Timothy Gabriel. I may be mispronouncing her name. She's an Ethiopian AI specialist because she's this kind of person who believes in what she's doing at the detriment of popular opinion. She doesn't spend her time chasing after opinions that are popular. She goes for what she really believes in. Now, in real life, my role models are usually regular people that I interact with, and they're not popular, so I'm not going to list them. But they are my teachers, they're friends, they're relatives. They function as mentors to me, and they inspire me in so many ways. So, if I want to give advice to my younger self here, I would say seek mentors and role models, but remember that your path is your own path. Now, what kind of advice can I give to you all who are aspiring tech professionals? Now, I want you all to you know, as you keep considering a career in tech, I just have a few things to say. The first thing I want to say is that you need to know who you are so that you can be your authentic self always. The truth is, you are the only person that exists in that combination of DNA, in that combination of experience, in that combination that you exist. And whatever you're supposed to bring to this world, whatever thing you're supposed to inspire or whatever thing you're supposed to provide knowledge for, you're the only person that can bring it. You're the only person that has that perspective. You're the only person that has that solution in their head. So once you figure yourself out, be authentic. The second thing I would have to say is do not be afraid of failure. Failure is a natural part of life. But for some reasons, we always think about failure like a bad thing. If you think about a heartbeat, the heartbeat is always going up and down, up and down. I've never seen a living person with a straight line heartbeat. So if you are constantly successful, you're dead. So failure is just a natural part of life. Do not let these failures define you. That's very important. Even when you're experiencing it, don't let it define you. The way I always say it is that this too shall pass. So no matter what state you're in, it's something that could come and go. Most importantly, learn how to fail. Fail fast, get to root cause, implement corrective action, and repeat it again. Next day, wake up and do the same thing. Resilience is a key ingredient in any STEM career. You will face setbacks, but you have to understand that each one of these setbacks is an opportunity to grow stronger and more skilled. You will learn more from a program that you wrote that has bugs than you would from a program that you wrote that has no bug. So keep pushing forward no matter what obstacles that come your way. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me about those questions. And I'm going to go ahead and stop here. And the next video I'm going to make will be about robotics. Thank you for listening.